A lovely morning to you. Thank you so much for keeping it on UBC TV. Thank you so much for sending that sun arise from wherever you are. They're very interesting and lovely pictures. And indeed, Molen was right that one of the best views to wake up, set your eyes on, is the sun as it is rising. And we always ensure that whenever you send that picture on our WhatsApp number, we will surely like it, and of course it will be on our various social media platforms. So please connect with us through that. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. I'm Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono. Now, this is a time where we discuss issues of national importance and give them an in-depth analysis. With me this morning, I'm privileged and honored to host a man who has spoken for a long time, that is for people in the tourism sector. And this is Richard Moses Mauku, who is the Acting General Secretary of Uganda Hotels, Foods, Tourism, Supermarkets and Allied Workers Union, HTS. And he's also one man I've known who respects and loves his culture so much, being a Mugwere, and of course under the leadership of Ikumbanya. Mauku.
Yes, my brother.
Let me begin on that note.
Yes, please.
What happened when the Ikumbanya passed on? It's been a long time we hear Ikumbanya. So have you, when are you getting a replacement?
We are in arrangements to do that. But you know, with the effects of COVID-19, it has not been made possible because this involves getting together very many people to discuss and agree on the procedure and how the elections shall be done, because ours, it is done through elections.
It's not hereditary.
It's not hereditary, so those rigorous processes require some bit of time and also a harmonious environment that COVID-19 has not provided for us. That is the reason that why we have not yet found one to succeed late. That's what I can say.
Well, I'll now take you directly to something that you're also well versed with, which is the tourism sector. And we are discussing the impact of COVID-19 on the tourism sector. You know, tourism is one of the sectors that gives actually the leading foreign exchange earner to Uganda as a country. But of late, due to COVID-19, this sector as well has not been spared. Yes, we could say hotels are opened. Yes, our airport is opened. But still, this sector seems to be staggering. Let's first look at the current situation of this sector in this country.
Well, I wish to thank you for hosting me at UBC, and I salute all Ugandans in their respective capacities. I wish you the very best during these troubled times of COVID-19 effects, which is affecting each and every person, organization, countries and economies and the whole world. For the tourism sector, especially in Uganda, we have been seriously hit by the effects of COVID-19.
Seriously hit?
Seriously hit. Actually, when COVID-19 was pronounced in Uganda, the sector which received the first biggest impact was the tourism and aviation, before education. Because these people in the tourism sector, we started losing money immediately on day one. From the date the scourge was pronounced, and Uganda as a government started taking measures to control, we began feeling the effects the same day. Because many cancellations, for example, were done in the Uganda Wildlife Authority and as well as all the hotels. All the bookings, most of the bookings that were made by foreigners, like it is clear that tourism in Uganda is dependent on the foreigners by more than 85% of the tourism business is basically the foreign people. And when airports are closed, people could not fly in easily. And you know that all facilities were virtually closed. The national parks were closed for tourists. The hotels were virtually closed. And they were, even if they were to operate, there were no people visiting the hotels, because most of the people that come to hotels, it is either conferences that were bad, it is either tourists who are going to tour the different facilities of tourism in the country, and which were also bad. Even when they actually reopened the hotels, the business did not return.
Sure?
The business didn't return immediately.
Okay.
In the first instance, on first lockdown, hotels realized a drop of business to less than 10% of their projections. All hotels, less than 10% of what they had projected to operate it.
That means if you had 100 rooms, then you would maybe...
You were selling either 2 rooms a day or none for even a week. And you can imagine we have hotels that have over 300 rooms, like Hotel Africana, Serena. They have so many rooms. And if such a facility is to stay a day without any guest, you can imagine the amount of loss. And these are hotels, these are facilities that must run with some costs, heavy costs, lighting, water, because they must be cleaned. So there were some skeleton staff that will remain, that were selected to stay and offer those basic services of cleaning, security, and lighting up and dusting rooms and all these facilities. And those go for money. So while they were not making any income, they had to spend on those overheads, which are obvious. So it became a problem to hotels that had not saved enough. We tried to do a number of mitigating issues to try and salvage the situation by probably taking on, asking workers to go back home on paid leave. But that came to a time when the hotels now, their resources got depleted.
Because how sustainable would that have been?
It could not be sustainable for a very long time. So we had to agree that let people go home and stay home on unpaid leave, but they remain employees. In one way or the other, when you are staying home, even for a year, on unpaid leave, so your gratuity, your gratuity continues accumulating, but you are not earning money for day-to-day use. So that thing has been ongoing for a long time until when they reopened after the first lockdown, businesses began picking up here and there, to the extent that some of the hotels had even started registering between 20 and 40% of the expected room occupancy. And even the tourism sector itself, the national parks had started registering a number of guests coming in, the tourists. Little did we know that we are going to be slapped with the second wave, which has again sent us aback. And all we had tried to do has again been tampered with the second wave. And it came with a lot of fear, and the death toll rose greatly, and everybody is aware about this. And it sincerely scared the guests, especially the tourists. And what made it worse during this second phase of lockdown was red listing Uganda. So many countries could not allow their people to come to Uganda, even when the government wisely had taken a decision to allow the tourism facilities and the hotels to continue operations. They had red listed Uganda for being almost a no-go zone, because our situation was so serious.
Of COVID-19.
Yes, that it could scare everybody. So that brought a lot of issues economically, because even when we stayed open, we had no people to receive. We had no people to give our services. So it has been a very sorry state that tourism as a sector, as the giant economically, it is now crawling and struggling to survive. And it sends a very big multiplier effect. If you are to realize, one tourist that come, if you followed the journey of a tourist from the airport to his or her final destination, a tourist would, for example, come to Uganda to see a lion, because we have spaces here, the climbing lions, these lions that climb trees in Queen Elizabeth National Park. And many people come here to see different species. It could be birds, it could be animals, it could be... So when this person is coming here, the main interest is to see what the bird he wants or the animal he wants to see. But she will begin spending right from the airport.
Entry point.
Entry point. So when you look at the number of different persons or sectors of people that work at the airport, you have aviation security, you have the immigration people, you have the CAA people, you have these enhanced luggage handlers, you have the taxi special hire people there, you have people selling the communication lines.
So the trickle-down effect
all those people benefit from this very tourist.
Now, Mauku, with your experience in this field, we know that our country is greatly hit because 80% or over 80% of the tourism sector depends on foreign tourism.
That is reality.
What have we done to promote domestic tourism? Because maybe if we are red listed by then and people would freely move the Ugandans, then maybe we wouldn't have been hit to this extent.
The Ministry of Tourism has been trying on this. You know, one thing that is most important is marketing. Every country has tourism. So the reason one person chooses to say, I should go to Uganda and not Kenya, and not Zimbabwe and not Zambia, it depends on how you market, how the country markets its tourism facilities. So that is one of the things that all of us as Uganda and Ugandans and the government most especially must focus on improving and promoting our tourism, both internationally and locally. If we had, I one time went to China, and we went to one of the biggest tourist places is the Chairman Mao's Palace. We went there as a delegation from Uganda, and we were about 12 people. One of our delegation was the Chinese. When we went to that place, they told us that it hosts about 30,000 people each day. But out of the 30,000, we were the only Africans that day who visited. The rest, all their tourists are actually the Chinese.
So they
very
come
few. Yes, it is domestic tourism. It is themselves. They save money to go and look at their good things within their own country, which is not the case with Africa. So even here, we need to develop that habit of wanting to visit places. When we have holidays is when we get most busy again. That is the bad mentality that we have here. We do not save for our holidays. When you save, you probably save to go and begin constructing some small house somewhere, either in your village or otherwise. But it is also important for us to begin thinking that we must promote our own tourism.
That Uganda see as a luxury. What are some of the benefits? Just maybe because as we talk about marketing, now for domestic tourism, people must understand what is the relevancy. Why would I save to go for a holiday at CP Falls with my family? Why would I save even just the wildlife education, conservation education center here in Entebbe? People say those are for the kids. Maybe let me just take. So what are the advantages? How would we entice Ugandans to venture into this? Because it's predominantly something of foreigners and whites. Maybe we think they're on holiday, they have excess to spend.
It is just mindset and mentality. Everybody needs fun. And in any case, Ugandans enjoy more fun than even those whites. But the only problem is that we have not been skewed to wanting to go and watch the species that we have here. Because we know they are our own things. You have grown knowing that there is a monkey. You have grown knowing that there is a lion somewhere. But you don't want to take your child to see the physical lion. But many of us are getting into bars every evening and spending even 1 million shillings in a bar. Yet you would go to Makshon and see the beauty God has given Uganda, Makshon Falls. You can go to Kidepo and see the species that are there. You see a herd of about 500 buffaloes moving in one herd. And we have not seen these things, but it is like we are not taking interest. I'm only happy to note that in the recent past, we have started, actually, domestic tourism is beginning to grow. Especially, it is seen, and we are measuring from this, the nearest good facility here is in Karuma, Chobe Safari Lodge. Chobe Safari Lodge, during the first lockdown, it is the place where you could get some business from within our own Ugandans. The able boys and girls could always go there and have fun in that place. Even up to now, at least Ugandans have started visiting that facility, because while there you eat while competing with the monkeys, birds, you know. As you pick food, the monkey can come also and pick from your plate, so it is fun. So some of the Ugandans have started visiting some of these places. We only want to encourage that many of us begin to develop this heart that we must develop our own tourism in Uganda. Go and visit places that you have not. You see, people in Uganda here sometimes find pride to, you can ask a big man like Kirabo that have you ever been to Kidepa, and he says, never. Have you ever been to Mbale? 40 years he says, I've never been to Mbale, but he's born from Mukono. So you really wonder our mentalities. It is also a very bad thing. It is good to know many places, good to know more languages, but we stick to what we have, which is not a good mentality. So I would like to advise and guide that we internally need to develop our own tourism by visiting these spaces, visiting these touristic sites ourselves. Instead of going to a bar every day, you can maybe try to reduce on the number of times that you visit a bar or a club, and also save some little money. There is also a beer in Chaninga, for example. We have about 27 crater lakes in Fort Portal alone. But many of our people here don't know that these features exist, and Fort Portal is just 30,000 shillings to go there by public means. So you can also go and have a beer the other side while you are enjoying other things that you have not
and
seen.
Giving back to our economy.
Exactly.
Mauku, let's look at recovering this sector. What is the recovery plan for the tourism sector in this country? Because you all accept it is one of the avenues that our country is gaining revenue. Number one earn of forex exchange in our country. So how are we going to recover?
You see, I will first begin by telling you that one very big and most important issue is marketing.
Marketing, yes.
You see, a brand like Coca-Cola, it is one of the beverages that is most marketed in the whole world. And you were born when Coca-Cola was there. Up to today, Coca-Cola is being advertised. What is the reason behind it? So if we have gotten this trouble of drop in the tourism business, strategy number one is to put more and more resources into marketing and promotion of Uganda tourism, both locally and internationally. Short of that, it will be a nightmare. Much as people know that Uganda exists, they may not necessarily know the good things that you will benefit if you came to Uganda as compared to Rwanda, as compared to other countries. So it is incumbent upon the government to make sure that they rigorously market tourism sector for Uganda, if we are to recourse tourism and get back to the level where we have been. And two, when you talk of tourism, you must look at the resources. The budget for tourism sector should be stepped up seriously. But many times, this budget has been given money which is not enough, and when you go to UTB, Uganda Tourism Board, they are struggling with the activities that they have. When you go into the discussions with them, they will always claim, we don't have enough funds for this, we don't have enough funds for the other. And that is a detrimental issue. When we don't focus on marketing, then we shall lose out. And when we lose out, we are losing employment, we are losing money, and we shall end up losing even the spaces, some of the spaces, because it is employees that are promoting, that are conserving the wildlife. So
Maybe
if we don't
just,
have money,
sorry to interject,
even
let me just
conservation will be
remind our
compromised.
viewers that you can be part of the topic of discussion this morning through texting us on our WhatsApp number, and that is the number on your screen, 0709, that is 60 25 92, 0709 60 25 92. Please send in your questions to the guests I have in studios, your comment, your opinion as we look at the issue of mitigating the effects of the pandemic on the tourism sector in our country. There's so much that we benefit from tourism in our country, and this is one of the sectors that we know is right now moving in a kind of staggered direction, where most of the times we are depending on foreigners to give us the revenues we get from this sector. How have we improved domestic tourism is one of the challenges. Moses is talking about marketing. How are we marketing? Moses, when it comes to marketing, have we gotten our priorities right? Some time back, I saw our government investing about 10 billion into Mama Awards, and they say this will promote the tourism sector. We once had promotion of the Rolex in this country. So yes, we are boosting tourism. So are we getting priorities? Are we having a sellable package? Are we doing it right?
I wouldn't say yes or no. Every attempt to promote tourism is welcome. The best thing would be to develop or adopt inclusive mechanisms of how to agree on which mode or which method of marketing that we should adopt at a given time and for a given segment of the persons that we intend to attract to Uganda. Sometimes people, for either individual reasons and because of the positions of influence they have, one can start something and she feels that this is going to do something about marketing in the tourism sector, and he promotes it, or he goes ahead and he does it even when it would have not been the best option. But because he holds an influential position, this person can go ahead and do something. But we thank that person for the efforts. It would be important that we develop or adopt more inclusive methods so that we engage all stakeholders and all actors in the tourism sector, so that when we go for a promotion, it is that most achieves for the sector. And we should have agreed that I think this is the best among the options that we have discussed. But sometimes that doesn't happen. And the other thing that is very critical, actually, for which I thank government, is that government must consistently fight COVID-19, because that is the biggest problem. Where there is no COVID-19, the other things we can easily do. Where COVID-19 continues to ravage the economy, then we shall be just struggling, but it will not be easy for us. Well, so the efforts to fight and control COVID-19 are a very, very essential aspect in the promotion of tourism sector.
Let me read some of the messages here. I have a message. Part of Africa Vocations. We have promoted local tourism massively with huge success, but the biggest challenge is the hotel industry. They do not have packages for local tourists. That is a WW Pearl of Africa Tours. The hotels don't have packages for domestic tourism in this country.
I think that is what I was saying. That it has been discussed at some fora. It only needs to be stepped up, the discussions into that. It would be important that we have special rates. Some hotels do have, other hotels do not have. Better to have attractive packages for the local tourism if we are to encourage it more. But now we have Uganda Wildlife Authority, and we have Uganda Hotel Owners Association. We also have the Uganda Hotels, Food Tourism and Allied Workers Union, and many other tourism associations. We need to come together and discuss and resolve these issues if we are to promote tourism effectively. It is necessary and important, and the time is now. If we don't do it now, we might lose more. Because why would you insist that I want $200 per night when the person who has come is just attempting to come and venture into this, maybe out of some of the talks that have been made here and there, and somebody says, let me also try. And then I go to Para Safari Lodge, and they tell me a room is $150. That discourages domestic tourism. And I think it is important that we need to engage with the hotel owners to agree that we have some special
I think it's also
rates.
related to that. Good morning. Local tourism is a good thing. We love our country. We thank God for the beautiful nation. Going to the park, all other tourism site is cheaper than the cost of the service offered by business operators, brackets hotels. Paying for a guide is also not that expensive. So in other words, what is scaring the local people is the cost of upkeep at the hotels near the sites. The tourism board should consider offering a discount to the locals so as to motivate them. Most of us do not earn as the foreigners or foreign tourists do, yet we want to visit these areas. So if moving at CP Falls is maybe like 100,000, entrance to what I'm going to see could be maybe 20,000. A tour guide 10,000. But the hotel is above, the cost is more than what I've actually spent
in traveling, and paying the people that are going to assist you do the tour itself. Well, it is, I also concur and agree with the person who has sent that message, and just like I've just said, it is necessary that we engage and see, only that when it comes to costing in the hotels, probably for the rooms, when it comes to food, you have a choice. The menu is big. It may not, you may not compromise on issues of food because there is costing for food. The food that you sell in a hotel is first costed. So I may not go into the issues of compromising menu prices by hotels to differentiate between local and international. But for the room rates, that has been done in some places where locals could have different rates as compared to, just like they have different rates for children and adults. You can still have a segregation in those rates if we are together as actors and most effectively promote tourism. Then we have to engage into all those discussions and see how best we can.
I have a couple of messages, but please, if you're sending in your message, give us your name and maybe where you are so that we know where you're watching. And of course, it's very important that know who has sent us the message. We are still on issues of tourism. I just have a number. Okay, let me read out also this. Does the tourism board also charge infants, students, and adults same tourism fee? I would suggest kids under 5 years tour free of charge. That is a message. Of course, no name left, but he believes this could greatly go a long way in doing this.
They are all good messages, and they are good options that promote tourism. Because, for example, like he's saying, if you did a package in the maybe in a park that children below 10 years shall not be charged, you will entice the children to impress their parents that you take me, it is free for me. So it is a good idea, and these are ideas that we can discuss and adopt for purposes of promoting. And that is why I was telling you from the onset, we need an inclusive approach. You see, such beautiful ideas are coming from somebody, maybe a tour guide. You get? So it is not only the big men and women in the tourism board, in the Ministry of Tourism, in UA, that know it all. Even a small person somewhere, even a child, could have a very brilliant idea about how to promote tourism. So we only need to adopt those inclusive approaches to issues of marketing and promotion of tourism.
Well, time is not so much on our side, but before we conclude, Moses, I want to get your opinion on online tourism, where we are seeing Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center going into that. How is this? Is it one of the ways that the tourism sector can thrive amidst the pandemic as well?
Well, this has been adopted many years by the Uganda Wildlife Authority and UTB. They have been doing this. We only can say that we encourage more of that.
Log in, pay some.
Yes, you can do that as well. Instead, where, for example, where you can now not manage to travel to Uganda. If it, for example, if it has been red listed for some of the countries, like some countries in Europe and America. So if somebody can do online tourism, then the better, as long as for you have received income. He can say that I saw it on video last time. This time I must make a point that I go and see it physically. So all these are options that could bring more and more people and income to our country, and they are welcome.
Finally, your message to the people in the tourism sector. We know some could have lost jobs, say in the hotels. Some, what is your last take on this in terms of advising or encouraging them?
One is that we sympathize with our colleagues that have lost employment, and we also sympathize with our employers that have lost money, huge sums of money. You know, for you to have a facility and for 2 years you are registering huge losses, it is not an easy thing to do. But this is exactly what people are going through. Employers have lost huge sums of money. There is no hotel operating at a profit. They are all operating in losses. So they are struggling to reduce on the degree of loss. It's not about profit. Hotels are struggling to operate at a lesser degree of loss per year and not profit. And that is very worrying. Uganda Wildlife Authority alone, I'm not its a spokesperson, but if they had not saved some good money, by now they would have also probably asked workers either to get half pay or reduce pay, and that compromises on the quality of service of conservation. You know, these employees are sourced from within. So if you send many of them into the community, they can become poachers and again deplete the spaces that we have. So there are so many serious issues. So I want to implore the employers to shoulder on, because this is a situation that for which you blame nobody. Some people were saying we blame China, but it is not easy to blame China, because there are variants that have come from other countries, not necessarily China, and they're also disturbing us. So I also want to advise government to consistently fight COVID-19.
Okay.
Vaccinate people massively. My take would be, most of these cases arise from the urban centers, Kampala most especially. If they get some vaccines and they say, let us go to Owino and vaccinate everybody in Owino. We go to Chikubo, vaccinate whoever is in Chikubo. Even in one day, it can be done.
Well,
because most of the people that come to Kampala are the ones that pick COVID and then take to the villages. So if you make Kampala a COVID-free area, then it will be easier for other places to also reduce the rates. And I also want to advise people to observe the SOPs, try to regulate their expenditure, because the times are not easy. And I also want to advise the employers not to use the COVID-19 effects and issues to manipulate their employees.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much, Moses Mauku, who is the Acting General Secretary of Uganda Hotels, Foods, Tourism, and Allied Workers, for having found time and being with us. I want to thank you so much, those who have sent in their messages. Ojara Emmanuel from Nawelu. Thank you so much. We have a number of them from the Uganda Tourism Board staff there. Thank you so much, Uganda Wildlife Authority. I'm receiving the messages here for your contributions towards this show. I'll leave you with Ruben Mpima, take you through the world of sports, and later we'll have Good Morning Uganda Extra. Keep it on UBC TV. Stay safe. COVID is real, and it does kill. God bless you.